Oh boy. We got a KK sighting. And Mark McCarthy, good to see you.
All right, good to see you guys. Thanks for coming. We got crazy stuff tonight.
It's getting crazier by the hours. I mean, literally every time you hit refresh, the news is just crazier.
It's been hard. It's really been hard to keep up. You know, it's going at a pace that is not comfortable at all.
The world is crazy, and there's good reason for it. Man, you are in prime time now, Benzomatic.
Hi, Benzomatic. Good to see you guys. Miss Regina, I'm glad to see you.
Well, we could get the party started now. Regina's in the house.
Here we go, Regina.
Yeah, much love. It's beautiful out there right now. 67 degrees, mostly sunny. It's nice. It's going to be getting warmer. It's going to be getting crazier. And wow, you're going to be watching history unfold. Can you imagine getting to finally see things that have been maybe written about for hundreds, if not thousands of years come to pass?
I mean, what if this really is in our time frame with like us being alive? Oh my gosh, all this stuff we've been waiting for just coming to a head, it looks like.
Good to see you, Karen, as well. Hello, beautiful souls. Yeah, it's wow out there. It's just crazy. So ground and root, have yourself a spiritual practice, meditation, yoga, Qigong. We would strongly recommend the Vedic mantras as a good way to protect yourself as well as pull in positive energies. It's part of our regular practice. And, I hope we'll be able to be keeping up with everything because it's so busy. I got to build a chicken coop in a run, and I only have a limited amount of time because we have babies on the way.
We have babies. They're on their way. Oh, my gosh. What are we going to do?
Kelly Norman, good to see you. I thought we had answered and we were waiting for you. But hey, again, we could reach out again anytime. I think you have our phone number too. I know we had sent that before in a different communication.
Hi guys. Oh, one to be loved. Good staying off your phone and working on art. I love it. Frankie, good to see you. Yes, baby chicks.
Yeah, baby chicks coming. Hopefully ducks and geese as well. And it's just been crazy bonkers busy.
Directly from how does it go? SHTF.
SHTF, yeah.
Yes, SHTF
when the bleep
farms.
hits the fan farms, that's literally what it's called.
That's the name.
Our own Dr. Renee has a farm, and she grows just about everything that you could think of, and it's very successful, and she's still an emergency room doctor, and she's literally commuting like 2,000 miles on a regular basis. The woman is just amazing.
She is absolutely amazing, and we adore her.
Yeah, absolutely. One to be believed or beloved. Mrs. having a flock. It's going to be nice. We're looking forward to it. Tertarian Vagabond, great to see you as well. Church of Hertz, I guess that's what we're talking about, right? The egg is beginning to crack. Yes. Absolutely.
It really, really is. And, it can get weird. It's getting weird. Every day, you have to wonder, okay, what's going on? And, just watching locally around you, watching prices, feeling tension of other people, you can tell there's stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do need to reach us to set up an appointment or anything, evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. It does get to us. Sometimes we might not answer for a day or two. I try to keep up with it as best as we can, but we are literally also turning into homesteaders of a much higher degree now, as well as dealing with the clients that we help from all around the world and trying to get the videos in too. It's kind of crazy.
Hi, Dana Green, Emperor Rex. Good to see you.
Good to see everybody. Man, It's just wild out there. What do you make of this? A complete block in Mexico City starts to randomly flash. It could be some sort of celebration. Maybe everybody in the block said, hey, let's all turn out our lights and then we'll try to do this random. Nah, probably not.
I know. It looks very, very strange. I'm just watching for this to. Oh, it's on your screen. Why is it not on my screen? Very weird.
Oh, well, there's always a delay.
Yeah, but okay.
Oh,
go
but
ahead.
that's
Maybe
that is
it's just
weird.
me. Yeah. Okay. I
It's
think I fixed it.
Cindy's trying to see how it looks when we're on. Somebody's watching on a phone, and then I have my iPad going. Then we have the computer going, and yeah, they are different at times. That's curious to note. Well. By the way, this was Mexico City, right? Power outage at Denver International Airport impacted operations for a couple hours on Wednesday morning, prompted the FAA to ground flights. According to witness accounts from inside the airport, passengers were not allowed to board waiting planes. The power outages were impacting bathroom services. Oh, yeah. Boy, that's horrible to hear. I would expect, really, for probably the next couple years, I do think we're going to see ever increasing outages. You're going to see more system failures. You're going to see it for a variety of reasons. Some could definitely be the war. Some could definitely be hackers and sabotage. Some is definitely also natural because the frequencies are changing. And there's some things, well, obviously the dark matrix that's been in place is not compatible with higher frequencies. Thus, everything around the dark matrix is going to kind of just continually start to fall apart in some ways.
You know, KK talking about other street lights going off and on. I really wouldn't be surprised if there is not like some kind of cloaked ship in the area because it looks and it feels like a haunting. You know, it just doesn't feel right. And the things that I have seen, like multiple cars honking and alarms going off and the lights going on and off, it's just really unnerving when I see those things. So what would cause that? You know, the only thing I could figure is the electrical field being really disrupted, and what would cause that would be some kind of a cloaked ship.
I think everybody we talk to is talking about having all sorts of technical glitches and strange things too. Like phones. If I say something to Cindy, hey, would you turn the stove down? Then one of the phones will answer and say, oh, do you want to know what temperature to cook your chicken at?
Yeah, there's been a lot of that lately. It's kind of yucky.
It is. Good to see you, Elena. Good to see you, Barbara. Scott, welcome. Good to see you too as well. Yeah, frequencies, the Church of Hertz, they're so important. They are so important, and I think it's important to, again, keep our frequencies as high as possible, but I don't think it's a good idea to bury our head in the sand and try to ignore things because, this is going to be a big, bumpy ride. There's no way to, I think, forestall the facts that we're going to have a lot of issues with different things. Obviously, wars are one of them, but there's more than that. There's even more than that with what's happening. Everything is glitching. When you look over here, you got Fed Chairman Powell. He's warning Americans inflation's going to spike hard. Yeah, again, everything that they've done, in my opinion, has been to disintegrate the U.S. from the inside and the outside, and to make our economic situation such that it will ultimately collapse, and they can install a new monetary system. They're timing this with the war. They're timing this with a lot of things. If I want to be totally honest, they're timing all this with the arrival of the Messiah. Yeah, again, the Jewish Messiah. To the Jewish people, the Messiah didn't come. To Christians, the Messiah came. And then when you define Messiah, well, that's one of those things too, that the word takes on a life of its own. What does it really mean? The original intent from the Jewish perspective is not the same as what Christianity has turned into. Two very different things. This happens with our language all the time. Literally, like if you were to ask, 120 years ago for, wood, like you had a pile of wood over there, and you wanted somebody to come and bring it to you, you might say, would you go get me that faggot? Because that's what a pile of wood, a bundle of wood was called. Nobody would know that nowadays. Again, the words change. They've even changed just in my lifetime. I've seen meanings of words completely change.
They do that, and this is really interesting to watch. I keep going back to when I strung together those Varshafala charts between 2025 and 2030. There was going to be some type of an efficiency crisis. Like there was going to be some type of meltdown at some point. There's not going to be any good decisions to be made, and everything that's been automated is going to not do too good. It's like throwing a wrench in the machine, and then everything is going to grow back out from there. So that's to me, it's really bothersome. And there's our Karma Doc. We just love her so much. She is our favorite, and we're working on those baby chicks.
Yeah, absolutely. We love Karma Doc, and she's been so good to both of us and supported us in so many ways. We, again, owe her perhaps even our literal lives with some of the info and things that she's shared. So we're very grateful. And we need to do more videos. We did do one video with her, which we're going to do a lot more as long as she's able to.
And one of our babies is going to be named Karma Doc too.
There you go. So record-shattering March heat. 70 million people are going to bake in summer-like heat, which is going to be typical summertime temperatures. Very, very unusual, like, again, Phoenix. Just record temperatures, you can see 15 to 30 degrees above historical averages. Life-threatening temperatures when you're not really used to it. Here we are in the middle of March. It's going to feel more like July. So there's massive swings going on. And in fact, I think the extremes are really, that's the whole point. There's no like middle ground. Everything is swinging off to either direction as much as possible. And I do think that's what they're trying to do with all of us, is trying to keep us apart, to keep us separate and segmented, to pit us against each other with the different political ideologies, religions, and yeah, even from a scientific standpoint as well.
Yeah, I don't like the shifts in the weather. It's been uncomfortable to watch everything that way.
Yeah, and Talia is talking about going all the way back to Nixon's era, plan to bring about a second coming. Well, literally, you have politicians, pretty high-level politicians, say that there are those people that are literally trying to manifest the book of Revelations. That's what they're trying to do. They literally are trying to bring it about. Again, recognize the revisionist history, and the desire to make sure that we're following a script. The root of Scripture is script.
Indeed.
Yeah, and we're going to look at some interesting stuff. So onward we go. Orbs everywhere. They just keep coming. This family captures at least 20 lights of some sort. Now, sometimes when you see things like this, it might be one really big mothership. Other times, it could be individual balls of plasma. It could be a lot of things. The first video we did today was talking about all these different sightings that they were calling either meteors, fireballs, comets, etc. But a lot of them, we really feel, are ships. And Cindy was getting a clear message coming through from the guides that a lot of them are a star family because we right now are in the thick of it. We're really in the thick of it. It's March 18th, 2026. I mean, the war is already started. And there's going to be just one thing after another that's going to be fulfilling different prophecies. What's the ultimate goal of the prophecies? Well, I think if they're truly prophecies and not script, it's so that we have an idea of what may be coming, and hopefully we can use our will and consciousness to shift it to the most positive outcome. But I think when you're talking the script's there to bring about the outcome that those writing the script desire. And that's really the key understanding.
This was so interesting because we hadn't talked about this video when we did a video on it. And I was picking up that, there's these beings are coming in and they belong to certain tribes, certain humans, and they're probably making some kind of contact now, or creating synchronicities, or having people have these really interesting dreams that are kind of difficult to break down. But I think there's definitely something going on in the skies that is affecting us.
Yeah, and yes, getting ready for August 12th. Yeah, there's many different lineups, and eclipses are always very, very powerful. And then there's also the thought that we're going to have some sort of gravitational loss perhaps coming this summer. I think there's so many things coming together. Good to see you, George, as well. And, all will be revealed. Hey, we're in the apocalypse. It's starting to be revealed. That's really the bottom line. We talked about this one earlier, but man, from this angle, you look at it, when do you see a meteor change its path? The meteors don't change paths like that, and more than once. This is not a meteor. This is not even Starlink. This is something different.
I've never seen a meteor make a complete loop before. Yeah, there you go.
I think what they're doing is they're trying to say, hi, we are here. A lot of the benevolent ETs know what the dark control matrix has planned. And, in the Kali Yuga, we are unfortunately completely under the control of that dark matrix. How low can you go? Well, the dark control matrix go really low. Our politicians can go real low. But not everybody could go that low. And then also there's the realization that there are these treaties that are made between beings that are not Homo sapiens. It's not like a Russian, China, U.S. agreement or treaty. No, we're talking about different beings, like treaties between beings like Draco and beings like the Anunnaki, and maybe beings in some ways attributed to part of the Galactic Federation. That we don't necessarily know all the details because it's way above our pay grade, so to speak, even though it affects us directly. You do have entities out there that view that we're just, unfortunately to them, nothing but, cattle that a rancher owns. Well, don't you have ranchers that own heads of cattle? And don't you have people that own flocks of chickens? Well, do you go ahead and negotiate with the chickens or negotiate with the cows? That's how they view us. Mm-hmm. That's how they view us. And it's not a pleasant thought.
No, and I got that treaty was going to change last summer, and there was going to be an end and there was going to be a new beginning, and it was a matter of, are they going to show themselves or are they not? And it looks like there's been a new treaty created, and ever since then we've had so many sightings just like catapulted, and they exploded. I think they're fixing to do something, or at least definitely have the ability to contact their star family on some level. There's karmic reasons why they might and might not, and we have to keep that in mind, that us little humans, we don't know the whole picture. So we're kind of at a standstill with that.
I had to share this because, this just feels like it's so appropriate for this time. The domain name aliens.gov has been registered to the government. The U.S. government registered aliens.gov. Now, it's not illegal aliens.gov.
Yeah.
It's aliens.gov. This is actually it's real, and it was just done yesterday. Aliens.gov domain was registered on March 17th, 2026 by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, under the Executive Office of the President. Whoa, it's not active yet. So this is part of President Trump's February 19th, 2026 announcement directing federal agencies to begin identifying and releasing government files on UFOs, UAPs, and extraterrestrial life. So this will probably be used for some sort of disclosure. So, this is going to be part of it, because the government wants you to, understand who your Pleiadians are and who your Arcturians are and your Andromedans and, which ones are Draco, but which ones are Nagas.
I hope this site has good servers and lots of space. I kind of sense it's going to be crashing in the beginning.
I think, yeah. Now this expires in 1 year, and then we'll see what happens. I do think we're there. This is the year. There was a lot of talk that 2027 was going to be the year, but it feels like this is the year of a disclosure, a big disclosure. I mean, we've already had disclosure. They've told you. So many different government officials have come out and told everybody that, hey, this isn't ours, that isn't ours, it's not China's, it's not Russia's, it's no Homo sapiens made these things, and, that's been out there, and it's been given to us so many different times by so many different people. And yet we do have a lot of people that don't think there's life anywhere but here. Even people that we really like, truly like and enjoy, and even, some other channels that we'll follow along with and agree with, maybe 80, 90% of the time. But, again, even if the earth is flat, it doesn't mean that there's not life elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be so much more coming out. And, I think it's really important, like, even if if you don't agree with channels and what they say or what they believe, it's important to expand yourself and get all the information you can right now from different perspectives. The more perspectives you have, the better you can paint your overall picture of your reality and have that understanding of what's going on in your world. I think part of what they do is they really want us to be disconnected, and they want us to be angry, and they want us to feel like my way is the only way, or, I have to believe this or I have to believe that. And anyone else who doesn't believe this or that is just my enemy. We really have to walk away from that and just say, okay, that's what you believe. You have your reasons for believing that, and trust that and honor that with people. And I think the world would be a much better place. You just never know what you're going to learn. If someone has a strong belief about something, listen for a minute, even if they're not highly intelligent, they might have information that's going to be helpful for you. So that's really important.
Yeah, I think this is very telling. It's very telling. It's not the end all of everything, but it is very, very telling. When asked about the White House registering aliens.gov, White House spokesperson Anna Kelly told Defense Scoop, just stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's coming. Oh, it's coming. A lot of things are coming. And meanwhile, the war is still ongoing and still increasing. Riyadh strikes caught on camera. Destruction of a fuel depot for U.S. fighter jets. What's going on right now, a lot of military experts would say, is that you have the big adversarial powers of China and Russia oppose the U.S. and Israel. And they're just simply letting the U.S. and Israel get very, very low on munitions before they join. The Polish psychic Christoph, he saw that Turkey and Russia are going to move together. They're going to move together in unison, and they're just waiting for the right timing and the right cue. And the polar psychic Christoph Jankowski has been so incredibly accurate. In fact, I mean, I can't remember when he was wrong ever, but especially he seems to be zeroed in very, very well on this conflict. And so, he said when even before this war started, he said that if Netanyahu and Trump strike Iran, it'll be both of their undoing, the biggest mistake of both of their lives. And he did say that Netanyahu was going to disappear. And that's the word he used, disappear. He's going to disappear. Now, that might mean that he could reappear. And we're wondering if that's going to be the case. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow he'll reappear officially. There's a lot of videos out there, and we're going to take a look at some. But so much AI. This is Qatar, by the way, too. You could see this is the largest liquid natural gas plant in the world on fire. So, yeah, I think, what was it, $110 a barrel? Gas prices are going to be going way, way up. Oil prices. It's going to be very expensive next winter to heat things. And, at the same time, with these temps that we're seeing, these record temps, and we have water problems coming in. There's missing water from the Mississippi River, missing water. And then in California,
there was California lake went up 23 feet overnight without a rainfall. I mean, I didn't get time to look into that, but 23 feet with no rainfall in a 24-hour period, that's just weird.
So Iran has been using hypersonic missiles. Russia and China have them. That's why Iran has them. The U.S. Army is very close to fully fielding its first hypersonic missile, and could be within weeks. So why is the U.S. behind in this? Again, different focuses come from different systems and ways of doing things. But yeah, when you look at it, who's really winning this war? I don't think there's ever winners in war. That's really the bottom side. The only winners really are the bankers and the military-industrial complex, all those that make money. But it's not really winning in the big scheme of things. But to their mind, it is winning.
Yes, winning.
And, there's more that did come out that seems to be verified. So you did get that the USS Gerald R. Ford did pull away from the Middle East region as it neared a record-long deployment after it suffered a major fire which damaged living quarters. We reported about that 4 days ago, I want to say. But at that time, it hadn't been verified yet. But Bloomberg reports in a fresh update Wednesday the U.S. Navy's most advanced aircraft carrier is retreating from the Red Sea after a fire broke out in its laundry room. Laundry room? Supposedly some of its own crew started the fire because they don't want to be there. And because they don't feel that this is a just war and they don't want to be part of it. Is there truly like an outright rebellion happening, in the military? Maybe. Again, we don't know for sure. We're not there. Is planning to temporarily pull back into Crete. Now, that was reported too in the southern Mediterranean. And hopefully outside of Iran's feared long-range ballistic missiles. So, yeah, this is curious. This incident left at least 2 of the ship's 4,000 crew members with life-threatening injuries. Interesting. More than 30 hours to put out the fire? More than 30 hours to put out the fire? How big was this? And then you have, this, which, this was out there in circulation like 4 days ago when this first came out. And, of course, you don't know if this is AI. We don't know if anything's AI. That's the bottom line. But it does sound more like this might be more accurate. That doesn't look like a laundry fire, though. That looks like a fire starting on the surface, probably from, some sort of missiles or something along those lines, maybe drone strikes. The Abraham Lincoln is the other big one, and supposedly that was hit, but that was, again, also kind of, it wasn't really hit, just getting out of range of missiles and stuff. But when it came to the Iranian, Russian, and Chinese sides, they were all saying it was hit too, and it had to withdraw. We're in a different age. The weapons are different. Everything is fought from distance.
I know, and if that's a fire just from dirty underwear, there's a problem.
Oh, that must have 5-alarm chili there.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal. Yeah, I'm so sorry for those who got hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. 200 sailors injured, this says. There's always going to be a lot of reports in contradiction to each other. Qatar expels Iranian diplomats after that strike that we were showing on the liquid natural gas hub. Israel attacks Iran's navy in the Caspian Sea. Up in the Caspian Sea. Wow. So, let me just bring up earthquakes. There wasn't anything too notable, but just to show you guys where the Caspian is too. And here you are. That's the Caspian Sea. So, this is up here. Israel is all the way over here, this tiny little sliver. So, this is quite a bit away. Well, it's straight north of Tehran. I don't know how high up it was the strikes were going on. But, I can't look at this area and not think about elongated skulls, because you find them in Peru, but you still find them in the Black Sea area, which is right here. Thinking about all the Anunnaki legends, and because this whole area was like ground zero for the Anunnaki. And in fact, is Israel trying to recreate the original borders from Genesis of Israel, which would include the eastern part of Egypt from the Nile to the east. It would include the northern half of Saudi Arabia, pretty much all of Jordan, all of Lebanon, and also a good chunk of Syria, and a big chunk of Iraq. And even a little bit of maybe up into Turkey too, when you look at it. I could see why Turkey would go ahead and align with Russia. And Turkey is a very, very large military. It's the second largest military in NATO after the United States. So think about that. That's the second largest military in NATO. NATO's basically dead at this point. We've seen that. And, in fact, Trump says, we don't need them.
Nope, not at all.
So here you go. According to reports coming out of Israel from a widely known rabbi, Baruch Rosenblum, he says they're expecting the announcement of the Jewish Messiah on Thursday. And it's going to be blasted over the radio tomorrow, literally. I mean, it's already Thursday probably over there right now as we're doing this. The rabbi actually claims that their Messiah, Moshiach, will be announced on the first day of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, which is this Thursday. He also said that the site of the Strait of Hormuz is where the final war will take place. The reason the Moshiach will come this Thursday is apparently to remove the head of Amalek. Again, all these biblical terms from tribes and things that were, 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, if our calendar's right. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. There are some that believe that 300 years were added. Some believe, I should say, were subtracted. Well, added in the sense that they didn't really happen. And there's others that say 700, others that say a whole 1,000 years is just fluff. It's just complete BS, and it never really happened. And that, maybe when the real Yeshua was walking the planet was only like 1,000 years ago. Again, there is revisionist history, and those that win the battles, they write the history. They get to say the outcomes, and then we got to just weigh it. Is it real or is it not?
I know it's like they create all these scenarios and then they say, look, it's all very real, and I think in some ways it's getting us to manifest what they want to see, not necessarily what is going to happen. Although I do believe there's a lot of things that do happen when we are moving into a different Kali Yuga, and there's yugas inside of yugas inside of yugas. So cycles within cycles within cycles. And, I think we're at a very temperamental point.
The Cortez shows they've been refractalizing the Anunnaki illusion the whole time. Everything is Anunnaki. There's a lot of things that have come through about that. I've even kind of felt that I think a lot of things get blamed on the reptilians that really could be the Anunnaki. I don't think that they get along. But again, this is part of the reveal. All these entities, when you're that deeply into service just to yourself, they backstab each other all the time. It's like the worst used car salesman's lot. Everybody that's going to walk out that door is going to try to sell you the very worst car possible and try to get the very most amount of money out of you. And this is really what we have, whether we're talking the reptilians or the Anunnaki. I do think they blame each other a lot more. Do you pick up anything on that?
I think they're always kind of at war.
They are at war, but see, I think the thing is too that they've had an agreement, but then I don't think either side is really worthy of keeping their agreements.
No, they're not. They're very, very slippery types of beings. Kind of just continually working on exactly what they want, and they'll kind of stretch the truth or say what they need to say to get to that next step. It's like a big game of Survivor. You're not going to be able to play it without lying to some degree.
Bob Hawk, timelines and calendars have been manipulated repeatedly. They certainly have. We don't even know what year we're in. We might be in 2012, but what's that in reference to, really? What really is it in reference to? Because even, Bible scholars will tell you that Jesus wasn't here on the year zero. He wasn't born on January 1st, year zero. Again, it's even the season is off. Everything is totally off. We understand the shift again. We had the Gregorian calendar and those type of shifts. I think just like why do they keep having us spring forward and fall back? It's to keep us like off kilter, unbalanced.
Oh, they love it. That's where that spring forward thing really bothers me, because my dogs pay no attention to that. Children pay no attention to that. It's like we adults have to work around it because it has everything to do with our days when we have to do things.
So, again, let me bring up and let us head over again to these areas that we're talking about. This, like what's going on, so much of the destruction that we're seeing is a very rich area, but the reality is nobody would live here if it wasn't these times, because you really couldn't live here. If you're on this whole area, this whole peninsula here, and you didn't have the ability to desalinate water, you couldn't stay here. You really couldn't. It's just too barren, too hot, too dry. And so, they have targeted desalination plants. These areas right here, the way that they're structured, it's like these are really not good areas when you're at war to try to get ships through. It's so easy. You get bottleneck and they just peg them off. It's just part of the bigger plan and why things are coming out in this area. I don't think, and this is a little bit off topic, but I really don't believe that the deserts that we see in this world, I don't think they're natural. I think the deserts that we have, they are, let's look at terrain. They're a byproduct of wars. is what they are. I think they are a byproduct of wars. And you can see this whole area is just desert. But we have maps that go back 400 or 500 years ago that show all sorts of rivers and streams and lakes that are not there now. They are not there now. This area has been brutalized, I think, by war. I think it's, or if you want to look at it like resets, the same thing with, these areas here. You do have some areas that are a little bit better, and you can see the green because there are actually some trees here, and it's a little bit more manageable to actually farm and make a living, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, when you look at these deserts that we see around the world, I don't see nature. I see warfare.
Yeah, it's definitely not a nice place.
So what could this possibly be? To remove the head of Amalek, again, these wars go back. You're really still waging a war because some area was supposedly given to you 3,000 years ago. If you're talking back to the time of Abraham, if that's real, and again, we don't know. These could be very, very useful stories to explain why you're doing acts of atrocity or why you're attacking somebody after the fact. Well, let's think of a good story after the fact because we want their land. This is the reality of the way politicians always think. What's a good cover story? So, this is fascinating and very interesting when you consider the intentional hostility, this says, that Trump has fomented and is facilitating in the Straits of Hormuz. Also, the fact that Trump is widely regarded to be Messiah ben Yosef to many Talmudic rabbis. So, wait a minute, are you saying that Trump is perhaps the Messiah that again, the Jewish people are waiting for? Or is it Netanyahu? Or is Netanyahu dead? Or is he alive? And this is of note. Remember when Netanyahu, in one of his last real video appearances, mentioned, "We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but it won't happen next Thursday," which seems to contradict what the rabbi is saying, except for that was before, this Thursday upcoming. That was, weeks before. This is, again, that particular rabbi that's giving the statements. By the way, we've had to remove 2 videos after threats of copyright strikes, not from YouTube, but from other entities coming in out of the blue. And it just doesn't feel like they're legit. It feels like they just don't want the material that we were talking about up there. Which, by the way, one of them was me pointing out that there is a big war planned in April of this year. If you are to take some of Nostradamus' quatrains literally, it looks like the war is going to escalate dramatically this April, and it might even be a response against Israel that's massive and mind-blowing. And also Islamic Jihad eventually into Europe, and the sleeper cells waking up in Europe and literally burning some European cities to the ground. And some of them, like Florence, is mentioned that it's burned twice by men in robes, long flowing robes, that came way ahead of the original, army that's to come, hiding weapons under their robes and, blowing up, burning cities to the ground in Europe to soften Europe for eventually the Islamic Jihad that will come after. So, I had to take that video down because they were, again, threatening us with copyright strikes and other things.
It felt really, really weird. It just felt extremely weird, so we took it down. But we've had some really weird stuff happening lately. Now, True Gemma says the guy who bought the Twin Towers before 9/11 apparently just bought the tallest tower in California. Well, that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we mentioned that a couple of times, and it is because he's also taken out a big insurance policy on it, just like he did with the Twin Towers.
So everything is completely coming together in a way that is, I mean, there's disturbing signs everywhere, and inflation is just really super close. And I think we just need to make sure we have a lot of our staples right now, just a lot of things that you use on a regular basis. Make sure you're stocked up on that.
Yeah. You understand what really are they using religion as? Just a tool. It's a tool. You could hide behind it because you could, again, claim that somebody's going after you because of your religious beliefs. But, it's really just a tool. This is what they're, using as a means to an end. So it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see what happens tomorrow. Listen to this. This is again from a couple weeks back.
And I believe we all recognize the fact that we will reach to the kingdom. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday. The lives of nations is always precarious and surrounded with threats. Our survival, our endurance is a result of alliances that we forge for our existence to be stronger. No doubt we are moving from one battle to another, from the establishment and with this battle now, with this operation, Israel has become stronger than ever.
So, the thing to really understand that I don't think most people understand is that when you look to the Judaic tradition, when you're talking about that kingdom, they're not talking about like what Christians would think, a heavenly kingdom or afterlife. They're not even talking about afterlife. They're talking about now, here on earth. It's always been about here and now. It's not about, the afterlife and going to a heavenly realm. In fact, there was a lot of people in the Jewish tradition that didn't even believe in an afterlife. So that makes me question, how could we say that if there's no mention or thought of what happens after we leave the body, is that really a religion? Or is it something else? Is it some other type of ology?
Well, I think it's how to create a matrixology.
Yeah, absolutely. So, could arrive Thursday. I would not be surprised at all if we see something major happen tomorrow. I wouldn't. Will we see them point out maybe some Pleiadian-looking being that lands in a ship and comes out and says, "Hey guys, how you doing?" No, probably not that, and probably nothing that drastic. But something that could be interpreted later on. Again, so much of prophecy is being vague, so many different things could fill in, the gap, and so that later could be claimed. This is part of what the reality of what we're looking at. Do you think this is the same person, right? Look on the right, look on the left. How many times have we seen like 2 Bidens? We saw like 6 Bidens. We've seen different Hillarys. We've seen a million John Fettermans that don't even look alike. Do you think that this is from the latest video in Netanyahu, in which he's saying something about counting his fingers, and I only got 5 fingers? Do you think it's the same person? Do you think it's not just AI? It really does. He's got the most unique ear canal I've ever seen. Not that I've studied a lot of ear canals, but it doesn't look the same. It really doesn't. Do you think, is that the same guy, guys? Is this the same guy? It doesn't even look kind of real. I mean, when you really look, that looks like a real person sitting there. This, if somebody built an android and put real, as real a skin as they could, like a robot, I think it would look like this. It might look like this. Or, AI. Chat could probably give you a pretty close representation. Okay, so this is the latest video with Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee says, I flew here. President Trump wanted me to come and make sure you're still alive. And he's laughing. Oh, yeah, I'm still here. And I still got 5 fingers, not 6. Right? But when you look to Huckabee himself, his whole head shifts and morphs. Is it just a trick of lighting? Or is this complete AI?
I don't know. I thought it was AI.
I think it's AI. Even Stephen Benoon, Israeli News Live. And, I got so frustrated with him from his religious perspective that I stopped watching him many, many years back. Yet he would have good info on anything. If anything was happening in the Middle East, he's got a lot of sources inside the Middle East and on the ground. And so one of his sources told him that this is AI, this is not him, and that Netanyahu is either dead or in a coma, but the source believes he's in a coma, and they're not really sure he'll survive. But that would make this again just another AI forgery that they're putting out there. But Stephen Benoon too said that him and his wife, they had divorced themselves from Zionism and really distanced themselves from everything with what's happened in Gaza over the years. So that was good to see that he's gone away from what could be manipulated. Zealotry of any kind is very, very manipulable.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Ask the witches that were burnt.
Yeah.
Again, how about the Crusades? How about the extermination the church did of the Cathars? How about the millions of people that were living in North and South America that were exterminated by Europeans coming? Do you know that they literally, when the conquistadors came and landed, they spoke in Latin a decree given to them by the Pope, telling the inhabitants that they were now slaves of the papacy. And, they would be relieved of everything, including their women and children, all their possessions, because it's all, belongs to the church, because God has given the church that. That's literally what they read to people that don't understand Spanish or Latin.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those things where it just shows you how important indoctrination is and how important it is to teach children from a very young age. You want that hardwired, because then they'll do anything they're told.
Yeah, so, you're going to witness the most wild period of time on planet Earth in this yuga. This right here you go. This is what they just put out. And let's see if we take just a moment's listen.
Mr. Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the President asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
I checked that, and I'm happy to see that, but he wanted to make sure because, you guys get along too well.
I know, and we shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand, but I have to tell you, I'm alive, but I have this card.
Oh.
And, don't read it. So, it's a punch card.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I erased 2 names on the punch cards, and you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Your name is on the list of the good guys.
Thank you.
And what the President, the U.S. forces are doing is incredible. We're very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. And getting rid of these lunatics would like to develop nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to every American city after wiping out Israel. They ain't going to do that. We're white.
Yeah, you get the picture, and the reality is, it's known that Israel has nuclear weapons, and Israel also has something called the Samson option, which, I had a video get taken down talking about the Samson option. And what does that mean? That if Israel, well, I'll look it up for you, and I'll give this to Cindy.
When I was watching that video, there was like splits in the screen, like little tiny splits, like, even if they were real people, they could have put them together. The technology that's out there now I don't think we have access to the really good stuff. I think we have access to what is safe for us to have.
So this was first popularized in a book by American journalist Seymour Hersh in 1991. And it basically, it's believed that Israel has between 80 and 400 nuclear warheads with delivery systems. And what would they do? If they were threatened with annihilation, they would launch them all and wipe out whoever it was that was trying to take them out. So, again, we all saw what happened in Gaza. So the thing to understand is, who is the Jewish Messiah? What really is the Jewish Messiah? It's a future human leader descended from the Davidic line through his father, who will be anointed as king and fulfill specific prophesied roles. He is not considered divine, but a mortal figure with extraordinary spiritual and political authority. The role of the Messiah includes reuniting the tribes of Israel, gathering all of the Jews to the land of Israel, rebuilding the third temple in Jerusalem, central act of national and spiritual restoration, reestablishing the Sanhedrin, which was the supreme religious court and legislative body, necessary for formal recognition of the Messiah and resumption of sacrificial worship, resuming blood sacrifices, ushering in the Messianic age, era of global peace, justice, and universal recognition of that one God, where nations will live in harmony and the knowledge of God will fill the earth, restoring the Davidic monarchy. Interesting to note, thank you, Susan Donahue, monarchy means one archon. And leading Israel as a righteous, powerful, and spiritually guided nation. This belief is foundational in Orthodox and conservative Judaism, codified by the Maimonides as one of the 13 principles of faith. Messiah is expected to rise from the Davidic line, although some traditions also reference a suffering Messiah, Ben Joseph, who precedes him. Modern Reform Judaism often interprets the Messianic hope as a future era of human progress rather than a single individual. So that leads to ask, what about Benjamin Netanyahu? Is he descended from Davidic line? Well, his connection to King David comes through his mother's maternal lineage, specifically via Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna, who is traditionally believed to be a descendant of King David. The lineage is cited in multiple sources, including genealogical research. And how about the paternal? His father, Benzion Netanyahu, original name, that was a changed name. Originally, it was Benzion Milikowski. And he was of the Ashkenazi Jewish descent from Poland and Lithuania. Was a historian and scholar. His lineage is associated with the tribe of Levi, not Judah. The family name Netanyahu was adopted during the Hebraization movement in Mandatory Palestine, honoring his father, Nathan Milikowski. So Netanyahu has acknowledged via DNA testing that he has some Sephardic ancestry, which may support broader Jewish lineage, but does not confirm a direct Davidic bloodline through his father. So, in other words, he doesn't seem to fit that portion of it. But know that the name Milikowski is shared with Javier Milei of Argentina, who, again, his original family name was the exact same name, Milikowski. Cousins? Perhaps. The Antichrist is a figure described in Christian eschatology as an entity who opposes Christ and falsely claims to be the Messiah. The term Antichrist comes from Greek antichristos, meaning against Christ, or instead of Christ. It's used 5 times in the New Testament, primarily in the epistles of John. In the Johannine epistles, the Antichrist is not a single individual, but a category of people that deny that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. 1 John 2:18 states, many Antichrists have come, indicating that that spirit's been present since the time of the apostles, continues today. While some interpret the Antichrist as a future global dictator, often linked to the beast in Revelation 13, or the man of lawlessness in 2 Thessalonians 2, the biblical texts themselves do not specify a single person. Instead, they emphasize doctrinal opposition to Christ. In other words, the whole concept of it. So when you look to Revelation 13:3, it describes a vision where one of the heads of the beast appears to have been mortally wounded, but the deadly wound is healed. A miraculous recovery that causes the whole world to marvel and follow the beast. Was that Netanyahu or was that Trump? I mean, Trump was shot in the ear, right? And then Netanyahu, well, he's gone missing. He was pulled from the rubble, according to some footage that we have. Is one of the two of them the real Antichrist? And then there's stuff that's even way more out there than that. Way more wild than that. Maybe even closer to reality than most people realize.
Yeah, there's just so much out there to dig through right now, and news on top of news on top of news on top of news.
Yeah, when did I first learn about all this? It was in 1976. That's when I started to study all this. And, I really in 83, that's when I finally came to the conclusion that we're talking about ultra-terrestrials. We're talking about extraterrestrials. We're not talking about the creator of this universe, and realizing, the bigger scheme of things. The day of the Lord is a horrible day. You don't want to see the day of the Lord. Why? The whole sky will look up and they'll see the sign of the return of the Lord, and they'll wail and moan. It sounds like Operation Bluebeam, right? It sounds like the return of the Anunnaki. It's again, when you look in the Old Testament, it's clear when they disobey God in any way, shape, or form, he punishes them with plagues, with famine, with drought, with wildfires, all these type of things. It's exactly what we see today. It's obvious to me that it's all been just the same control system posing as the creator of the universe. But it's never been the creator of the universe. It's not even remotely about the afterlife. None of it has anything to do with the afterlife. It's all about here and now. It's all about controlling people right here, right now. There's also a rabbi called Michael Laitman. In fact, he's very, very curious. Laitman tells his students that they don't come from here. We come from there, pointing to outer space. This is Israel at their root. So we went through such a route that took us inside by what is called the shattering of the vessels, the shattering of the collective soul. Whoa, this is heavy stuff. Question from the audience. Who's the chief of staff that sent the commanding unit? Oh, now he says him, the creator, that Israel's part of him. So when you realize who is him, again, what we're talking about is the Elohim, which really is translating into that which we would know as the Anunnaki. So, what they're saying here, and this rabbi is talking about, I think it gives you a pretty good idea of, again, those known as the Igigi, the ones that came from Mars to here. Who were the Igigi, really? They were humans. They might have had a little bit more elongated skulls, but yeah, they are absolutely our cousins, so to speak. In some ways, our predecessors. At least a portion of our DNA comes from them. When Mars suffered its great destruction because of the system that was there, which again is the same system that was on Nibiru, they evacuated and came here. They came here when Mars was no longer suitable to live on the surface. And they merged in with the people that were already here on Earth. And there were many different beings here on Earth. And all sorts of ETs came and went back in those days. And we, also worked with them. We talked to them. This is going back to like the times of Atlantis. And, again, the system that really created the destruction and the assimilation of the AI system and all its nanotechnology, etc. It went from Nibiru to Mars to here, from Mars to here. So, again, Earth taking in refugees from other places. This is just the tradition of Earth. We are a refugee planet, but the tendencies of those that came from Mars here now dominate our planet and have dominated throughout the Kali Yuga. So, again, this is part of that bigger picture. And so I asked chat, I was saying, where's a good place for expats? Because we actually have some people that we know that have lived in the U.S. and are now moving out of the U.S. They're looking for other places to go because they could and they're able to, and they don't necessarily feel so safe here anymore. So I gave chat the parameters. What would you say, is some of the best, safest places for U.S. citizens given the wartime scenario that's going on right now? So what chat came up with was New Zealand, Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Costa Rica, Australia, Switzerland, Ireland, and Austria. Now, there's other ones too that they came up with. When you look at Switzerland, the Polish psychic Christoph has said it's going to remain relatively safe in this next conflict as well. Australia, has a caveat that it may end up being taken over by China. I think Panama was close in one of these lists, but Panama Canal could be an area that gets fought over. So, obviously the safest thing we can do is to keep our vibration and frequency high, to create our own bubbles around us. But yeah, this I just thought was interesting. I was just curious as to what chat would come up to. And so chat did a very detailed deep dive into it, and also a shorter one. But yeah, other places that get mentioned a lot are Peru, Ecuador, Belize, as well as, again, Costa Rica, Panama, if you want to stay close here, to the U.S.'s shores. And again, I would just, wherever you are, do your daily spiritual practice. If you say your prayers, say your prayers. If you do mantras, do your mantras. And, again, it's really important to ground and root and put off your high frequency, even in the most troubling of times.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot you can do. And if you do have that spiritual practice, it's going to bring you to another level. It's going to help you in many, many ways. It's going to help the universe kind of turn the tide in favor of you, even though sometimes it might not feel like it. It definitely has made things better for us.
Yeah, patent number 6017302A, subliminal acoustic manipulation of the nervous system. Literally, it's there. It's right there. So, this person says, is this why everybody has anxiety, insomnia, and infertility? It definitely could be contributing. I would definitely say so.
I would say so too. A lot of people having trouble these past few weeks, just kind of hang on and do your best to pull yourself up and out of it if you do kind of get sunk in this 3D world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, again, for those that are doing their research, chat's not the be all end all, neither is grok. And you got to go with what resonates with you. And it might be that you just stay put. You're already where you feel like you should be. This is also already kind of late in the game. So I think to uproot now is you got to weigh it, and you have to, decide, do you feel comfortable where you are right now? Or is somewhere else looking a lot greener? It's nice when there's protection from bullies. And, again, we do hope for that from our galactic friends as much as possible. I think if enough of the world woke up, like if literally 51% of the people on Earth were, mentally putting out there, help us Galactic Federation, help us Pleiadians, help us Lyrans, help us Arcturians, etc., we would see a lot more help. But we have to ask in order to receive. And we have to, first understand that these beings are really there. They're really there. Our ancestors knew it. They had no doubts. And in fact, the Dogon tribe, again, they know that humans don't originally come from here. And, some of our ancestry is out there in different places, Sirius, for instance. And I'm serious about Sirius. We have a wide, varied ancestry. And so Earth, as we've said, is a remnant of Tiamat. And it is absolutely a refugee planet. But it's been controlled by a very dark, manipulative system that really wrecked Mars, even though there's still people under the surface, and did the same to Nibiru, even though Nibiru is more of a mothership now than a planet.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting out there.
And I do find it like wild and very cool and fascinating that the more people that are now starting to channel, because more and more people are channeling, more and more people are developing their ability to remote view, humans are coming online. If you keep your temple clean, you can develop what would be thought to be amazing superpowers. You really can. But that's just who we are, and that's what's always been possible. They've kept us toxic. They've kept us dumbed down. They've given us self-limiting systems in order to keep us in the dark so they could keep leeching off of us, because ultimately they are parasites. That's all they are, is just low-life parasites. And we will shed those parasites. It's just a matter of keeping our frequency high enough. But you have to recognize, too, if you don't know you have a tick on your back, it's going to keep feeding and growing. You might need somebody to say, hey, there's something on your back.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
And Cindy's going to give us some dings.
Going to do some dings here. So here we go. Thank you so much, Bob Hawk. Source bless and namaste. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much, Bob. Again, we couldn't do it without you guys. And, it's like as much as we really need to be doing some other things, I do think keeping you guys informed is really like one of our top priorities, and sharing what we can with the world to try to shift the paradigm as much as possible. We love you guys. Loka samasta, suki no bhavantu, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words, acts, and deeds all contribute to that happiness and that freedom. Source bless, guys. Namaste.